Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, powered by Brady. This is your front row seat to the stories of local leaders, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are shaping our community. Every episode brings you leadership insights, lessons from challenges, and practical strategies you can use today. And yes, we'll keep it real and have some fun along the way. If you're ready to elevate your leadership, hit subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's dive in. Hey everybody, Jason Olm here, back with the Elevate Podcast, and I'm with a new friend of mine, but somebody that's not new to Indianapolis at all. A lot of folks know and like this guy. But Rafael, thanks for joining me today, and maybe just a quick introduction.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jason, for having me. Again, Rafael Sanchez. I'm EVP, Chief Impact Officer, and Indianapolis Market President, pretty much going for the longest title anyone could have. But Hoosier by choice. I affectionately call myself a Hoosier Rican because I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but really happy to be with you here today.
I like that. You know, when you and I first chatted, you didn't use Hoosier Rican. That's something that's really kind of cool. So let's maybe start at the beginning. So where are you from?
So originally from Puerto Rico, born and raised, and while in early childhood, my dad was in the Air Force. He was a medical doctor there. We moved a little bit to the United States for a few bases for a few years. I went back to Puerto Rico, I think 5th grade, all the way through college.
So no kidding.
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate studies in University of Puerto Rico in Spanish. And it was only then that during college, I decided that I wanted to become a lawyer and study law.
Yeah.
And we landed at Indiana University in Bloomington and never left. Never went back.
So interesting. So you go back to Puerto Rico, 5th grade.
Yep.
All the way through high school, decided to do university there. But your dad was a doctor. What was the genesis to study law? Where did that come from?
Well, he's now passed for my 13 years, I believe. So I guess it's okay to say this, but it was because Dad was a great doctor, but a terrible businessman. And he would dabble in business ventures and things and invest money here, invest money there, and it would always not work out. And in my opinion, he would get screwed, and the indignant son wanting to help his family. I said, you know what, I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to become a lawyer, and the whole genesis of it was I'm going to become a lawyer to protect my family, to not protect them from people from taking advantage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, and Dad.
Yeah.
And so that's what got it into me. And so I fast forward, I'm now in college, and I said I was going to be a lawyer since I was 17 years old,
Okay.
And so nobody believed me because I was also quite the troublemaker in school, and everybody kind of dismissed it.
All right.
And so I go to college. I meet my now wife in college. She's also from Puerto Rico, and she shared the desire to go and become a lawyer too. And so back in the day, Jason, especially in Puerto Rico, in those times, we're talking, 1994.
Okay.
You didn't live with your girlfriend back then. It wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. Okay, certainly not in the Latino culture.
Oh, okay.
So we looked at each other and said, well, why don't we just do it together? Let's get married.
Oh, wow.
And so I got married at the tender age of 21 years old.
Okay.
I turned 22 2 days later.
No kidding.
Yeah, so nobody get married for when you're 21 years old.
Oh, so I got to say, I share the same story. I married my high school sir. You're 27 years. Now you guys, so married at 21, turned 22 a couple days later. But 21, so is that here in the U.S.? Did you get married here while you were at IU?
Well, I got married in Puerto Rico.
I'm married in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, okay. And then from Puerto Rico, long story short, our best man of our wedding is a good friend in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
That he had gone and went on a study abroad program to Puerto Rico, and then he met his wife, who they're still married, from Puerto Rico. And so it was a very interesting find.
Okay.
And when I came to visit my girlfriend at that time, my currently wife, in Fort Wayne, because she was a study abroad student at IPFW in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
I came to meet her with her and hang out with her for a little bit. And then we both went back to Puerto Rico That's when I met our best man, and we became friends. And then he went to Puerto Rico for a study abroad, while we were finishing college. So literally our thought process was, we know we want to go study law. We know we want to go to the States. Where do we know people?
Yeah.
Oh, we know people in Fort Wayne. Let's go there. And that was it.
And it's crazy, right? Because you think about the United States, Puerto Rico, you think all the big cities in the U.S. that
Clearly, this is before they invented the term due diligence, because that was not anywhere. And I was, gleefully say he was young and stupid, right? I didn't really think things through. This is a historical accident, right? We get to Fort Wayne. To us, Fort Wayne's huge.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's about perspective, right? To us, Fort Wayne is huge. And then we get there and we assumed that Fort Wayne had a law school.
Oh, wait a sec.
Except it did.
So I just, all right, now this is really, I guess I don't remember that part. So you guys show up in Fort Wayne, you're going to go to IPFW, you're going to be a mastodon, and you assume they have a law program, and they don't.
Correct.
So what happens then?
Now, so I will tell you that from the moment in time the decision was made that we're going to move to the States, get married, and go to law school, we saved them a bunch of money, right? I had like 3 jobs in Puerto Rico, and not making a lot of money, but I'm just telling you, like, that everything that we could.
I'm sure.
So we started shipping a few boxes of our personal belongings, and then in 1996 in September, we come to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
Nearly froze to death, got off of the tarmac in the Fort Wayne airport. It was like 70 degrees. It was super cold, for us. Like, first, what is this? Like,
why is this so cold?
Yeah. But then when we started to investigate, and we lived out of suitcases in the living room of our best man, because he didn't have a spare bedroom. We were in the living room sleeping on an air mattress.
Yeah.
So I lived that way for a month because we were trying to get a job. And, we needed a car. We didn't have a car. We rented an apartment. Nobody would rent to us. And the grand total of the amount that between her and I both saved, that's when we liquidated everything and saved up everything, was $9,000 and some dollars.
Yep.
Okay. So we start looking into law school. Oh, there's no law school in Fort Wayne. Okay, well, that's not going to work. Well, we need jobs anyway. We need to figure this out, whatever. And I remember, I'll never forget, the decision we had to make, because nobody would give us a job because we didn't have a car. Okay. They didn't want transportation to be an issue.
Yep.
Nobody would rent us an apartment because we didn't have income. So we ended up having to spend half of our savings, $4,500, and buy a car cash, a used Ford Taurus.
Okay.
So that we can then go to job interviews with, and so we did that and got jobs. And then we had to prepay, because nobody would rent to us. Nobody had to prepay for 3 months, our landlord, for rent.
Okay.
So we quickly didn't have much left.
Yeah, saved us $10, right?
Yeah. So we ironically, Jason, we went into banking. So I became basically a teller. Okay, for National City Bank, which is now PNC.
Yeah, sure.
And then 6 months after that, I got promoted to assistant manager. And then 6 months after that, I got promoted to branch manager. And then for the other 2 years, so 3 years total, I was a branch manager with National City Bank.
Holy cow. So that's a pretty quick ascension, right, through the ranks at that particular bank. So you come in cold. I'd been in banking before, but in 6 months, get a promotion. What were you doing? How were you doing it? Was there a mentor? Were you just figuring this out on the fly? What was that like?
It's a little hazy. Okay. Yeah, it's rained a lot, but I don't remember there being a mentor.
Okay.
Obviously, I had really good relationships with the people I worked for. Obviously, people I think that believed in me.
Yep.
And I had their support. I don't know that I would classify them as mentor or like relationships. No serious would talk about it today, but I think in large part was just the drive and the work ethic.
Yep.
And when I left Puerto Rico, I was making $5.25 an hour.
Okay.
When I come to the United States and I get a job as a teller, I remember, I'll never forget this, I was making $7.50 an hour. I thought I had hit the jackpot.
Right. Yeah.
Like when you're at $5.25, before that, I was probably at $5 an hour. Yes, at a quarter increase. Okay. And then for something before that, I remember the days when I was making $3.80 an hour.
Oh,
and when I would have to go to lunch and eat a Big Mac meal, there went an hour and a half of my work, right? Because I just had paid for it. So you got to understand the perspective and the context of it was I thought I was rolling in the dough. And then when I get promoted to assistant manager, I go from hourly to salary. Blew my mind. And then I get promoted to branch manager, and then it increases more. And I think I was roughly like at $32,000 branch manager. And I thought,
You live in March.
I live in March because, again, I'm just 20-some years old. I got now the title, I got the responsibilities. I'm being a branch. And by the way, my branch, at any point in time, I was no more than number 7 out of 125 branches.
Okay.
No less than 7. Oh, number 7. So either in top 3, top 7. So it was earned, right? Like we were doing really well with selling and increasing the market share. It was a new bank at the time in Fort Wayne. It ended up acquiring Fort Wayne National Bank. That's National City, and then it became PNC because we got acquired by PNC. But so it was one of those moments where it wasn't in the plan. We didn't consciously say we're going to go into banking. We didn't consciously say we're going to go work for 3 years and then go to law school. It just kind of worked out that way. I woke up one morning and said, wait a minute. We came here to go to law school.
Yeah.
Time out. What are we doing? And so we decided to take the law school exams, the tests.
Yep.
LSATs, and apply to 6 different law schools around the country because the goal was we're both going in, so we both have to get accepted. So we said, wait, let's apply to 6 so we increase the chances of both of us getting accepted.
For sure.
You'll understand why this is different times because all 6 admitted both of us.
Oh, no kidding.
So we then had this menu of choices, and my wife and I are looking at each other, and from DC to New Orleans to all over the map. But by then, again, coincidental because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know there was such a thing. But guess what happens after you live 3 years in Indiana?
You become a resident, right?
Guess what happens to your tuition?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in state.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So luck would have it that it happened to be 3 years that I was now in state. And so the cost.
No kidding.
Yeah, the cost for 2 to go.
You're way down.
And then IU was really highly ranked. Bloomington, great law school. It still is today. And so for us, it was a no-brainer.
Yep.
And that's when we accepted law school, quit our jobs, and moved to Bloomington.
No kidding. Right? So it's just interesting. Over 3 years, you're here, you're working at the bank, doing well, growing, but still there's that itch to go to law school, right?
Yeah.
You needed to go scratch. So you leave Fort Wayne, you guys head down to Bloomington, start going to school. So what was that like, and kind of where'd you guys go after that?
Well, it's funny because, we are CLEO fellows. So it's a program, a pre-law program that the state still participates in. Randy Shepard, the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court for Indiana, helped bring it to Indiana. But it's mostly minority students that are going into law school. And they give you a stipend if you successfully complete, can't remember if it's an 8-week course before law school, the summer before the law school. You have to stay on campus. This year was IUPUI before the McKinney Law School was even rented. And so you go through like mock classes and mock exams, and they're kind of like priming the pump and enticing into it. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because I still remember to this day, and I think she's still around and she's still teaching, but Professor Florence Roisman at McKinney Law School. She's his real property. She created one of my papers, and if you end my law school exams are not, typically they're not multiple choice and stuff like that. True or false. They're like blue book, like you're going to write, narrative. And she had all of these symbols, the symbol of new paragraph.
Yes.
There we go. There's a 2, and then that it looks like a V. Okay. I remember looking at that, and I could not make heads or tails what she was saying. Even the like italicize this or do this or that, like I couldn't read. And so she's meeting with me and she's going over with me, and then she realizes that I'm not tracking some of the things. And she goes, "Are you following what I'm saying?" I said, "A little bit." I said, "I really like," and she goes, "Wait, have you know English because you're speaking it very well." I said, "Yeah, no, I know English." I said, "Yeah, but, and how did you learn?" Because I was in Puerto Rico, right? We have an English class. Yeah, so all my classes are in Spanish.
Yeah.
But in Puerto Rico, in undergrad, most, if not nearly most, like 95% of my classes were in Spanish.
Okay.
And I never had English instruction. So law school became the first time in my adult life that I had an instruction in English. And so all these conventions and these things are just a little bit different. And I wasn't making sure. And she goes, "Do you know you can ask for more time on the bar exam?" Which, fun fact, we didn't ask for more time. We didn't ask for accommodation.
I see it.
No, we took it normally. But like I just remember I took for granted myself how challenging it would be to then all of a sudden thrust myself into graduate type work in English. Sure. Because I didn't really do that at all.
No kidding.
No. And so it's just very different. And the things that you focus on in Puerto Rico, the things you talk about, it's just, this is why you can't do law school in Puerto Rico and then come to the ASA, right, this law and practice law, right? You've got to go through, it's a different code and everything. Sure, if that's civil code, here we have common law. Oh, Puerto Rico would be civil code, kind of like Louisiana and the Napoleonic Code. Okay, I know it's different. So you'd have to retake the bar and do all that kind of stuff. Sure. So it's just like I don't know if people that haven't been or haven't stayed there for any period of time can really relate to what I'm saying, but it just because it's territory of the United States does not mean that it's not a culture shock in more ways than one. Sure, I remember that being very challenging for me.
No kidding. All right. So you're down at IU, going to law school, you finish up. And so I'm assuming working, obviously putting yourself through law school, which is hard as it is.
Yep.
You finish up, you take the bar, you guys pass. What happens next? After you finish up, what do you think you're going to do after that?
So interesting. So the major life event happened the last semester of law school, unplanned. My wife discovers she's pregnant. And so she gives birth to our firstborn child in March.
Okay.
We graduate in May and we take the FAR in July.
Okay.
And many other people in that situation would have said, "Okay, well, I'll go first. You're going to be with the child and then you could take it later."
Yep.
We didn't do that. We both sat for the bar.
No kidding.
We both took turns take care of our little one. We had my mother-in-law come while we were in Arbery classes, taking classes to babysit while we were gone. But the minute we got home, and you're up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You know how it is. But yeah, so, I look back and I think, how in the world did we successfully pass the bar the first time?
I'm kidding.
And I don't know how to answer that question. To me, it was something that I would never want to do again in my entire life. Like I remember tears rolling down my face because of the pressure of studying, and you're spending 12, 14-hour days just reading the books, studying. And then you want to just lie down, but you can't because the baby's crying. And then you can't just, it's not just me taking the bar, it's your she's taking.
You're right. Yeah.
So it's like, I can't pawn it off.
She's going through the same thing.
Yes. And so we applied like you do in law school. Firms come and interview on campus. We took whatever opportunities we could find, and she got a really good offer during the summer with a law firm. I got another good offer with a law firm, both at Indianapolis and downtown. And, they recruit you not in your third year, but typically in your second year. So it's a 3-year program. So by year 2, at the end of that summer, you typically will have a job. If you did okay and they want you back, they typically give you a job offer for when you graduate from law school. So we already knew we were locked in. By the time we started our third year, we knew where we were going, and we were going to Indianapolis to work at the large law firm. So that's kind of how that played out.
How awesome it is, though. 2 different law firms you got?
Yeah, 2 different law firms.
But both in Indy. I mean, so terrific, right? Because they could have been anywhere, maybe around.
Sure, for sure. And by the way, I have you get no's a lot more than you get yeses.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive environment. And so we called the no's in the form of a letter ding letters.
Ding letter.
Okay, so I have a stack about this big. I still saved them all. I have a stack about this big of all the firms that told me no.
Yeah.
And I saved it because one day, I don't know what I was thinking, but maybe one day show it to my kids.
Sure.
If you know, if at first you don't succeed, all that, try again. Like you can't just give up. But also just to fuel myself. I thought like, okay, now my job is to grow this stack.
Yeah, they're wrong.
They're long. Yeah, they're raw. So we started at the large law firm as an associate, in the law firm with a under 1-year-old. Our daughter walked down the aisle with us when we collected our diploma. We had a cap and gown made, for the baby.
Here's that.
The whole class knew of our child, because it became like a thing. And so,
how awesome is
I know. And so she always marks the graduation.
Yeah, sure.
How old she is, and she's turning 24 in March. So that means it's 23, almost 24 years since I finished law school. But I never forget the challenges of being an associate at a large law firm is pretty strenuous, right? Billable hours. I mean, you've seen the movie The Firm with Tanya Harris. It's exaggerated to some extent, but in terms of all the crime and the
of course, yeah.
But the terms of the hours that you put in the bump work on the other are pretty true, and so every other week my wife and I would have to swap who had to leave at 5.
Okay.
To make it through traffic from downtown to pick up our daughter at daycare before 6, because after 6 they start charging you.
Oh yeah, these. Okay.
And so, like 1 week I'm on 5 o'clock duty, so I would have to leave that entire week at 5, no later than 5. And then the next week I'm free to stay as late as I need to, and I have to leave at 5. And even with that arrangement, there were times we'd have to like, hey, this came up and I can't leave, and I'm sure y'all are 4 feet, but it was so stressful. It was so stressful to do that because the demands and the pressure of the job.
Sure. Yeah. So you're working at the law firm, got a young kiddo, and you guys are doing well. What happens? Because eventually you get back into the banking, world. So after you've worked at the law firm, what changes and kind of where do you go after that?
Well, so keep in mind, I stayed at the law firm, and the only law firm I worked at, I never hopped around. I never went to a different law firm. I did try to get recruited by other law firms, but I never left. I was very loyal and stayed put. And it was like 14 years later when I made the jump.
So 13 or 14 years prior to becoming a partner.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're practicing law. You became a partner. Stayed at the same law firm. One of one. You don't hear that often anymore. Right? And folks are making changes every 2 to 3 years if they make it that long. So why stay loyal? Why stay in their organization? Was it culture or?
Yeah, I think I always live by the saying that people don't lead companies, they lead people. And I think that it had a lot to do with the culture, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people I was with. I was comfortable, and one thing you don't know, and you hear horror stories about, is everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side, right? Okay. It's just a different type of grass, and so how about you try to water your own lawn first, before, we're always in search of something better, and everything in life is good at first.
Yeah.
It's after the honeymoon period is over. Okay. How is this really shaping out? And so I knew already from past experience that, everybody's got their problems. Like there's no perfect employer out there, but like I was going to do my best to make it work. I was involved at one point I was a recruiting partner, and I would be the one interviewing kids on campus and bringing them in into the state of people working there that I brought, come over. They used to call me the managing associate, because I got involved with the associates committee.
Okay.
Took an active role on the associates committee and served on a few other committees. I was not only a member of the litigation department, but I was also a member of the business advisory, which is corporate. type work, and that's unheard of. Usually you're the litigator or you're involved in deals, right? You don't do both. Like you specialize on one or the other. But so kind of defied a lot of the norms within the law firm. But, the pressures of building your book, which I always do, was very important from the very beginning. From day one, as an attorney, as an associate at the law firm, I don't know if it was somebody in my ear or if it was self-taught and reflection, but I knew I had to get involved civically.
Yeah.
And I started joining boards and getting involved with the community and being civically engaged and just continue to grow. And probably, if I'm being honest, to the neglect of learning the practice of law.
Oh, no kidding.
Right? Because the partners will always tell the associates, first several years, first 3, 4, 5 years, don't worry about anything else. Just practice on learning the law and becoming a good lawyer. Okay? Right? Like, it's almost like turn off everything else. Don't worry about outside activities. Don't worry about this and that. The problem with that rationale, which at one point I felt like I was getting sucked into and then I resisted it, is that, so now let's say you're in year 5 and you're on partnership track, and in 2 years now you're going to be partner. And so all of a sudden they flip the switch. Let's say, Rafael, you're no longer an associate. Now you're a partner. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, now the expectations of you and how you're compensated completely shift.
Okay.
So now it's not just the hours that you bill. That's important too. Your hourly rate goes up, by the way, so you're making more money from the firm. But now you need to bring business in. Well, if you've been MIA for the first 5 years of your life, and then now you're only kicking into high gear because now you became a partner, well, now you're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, sure.
Right. It takes time and years to develop relationships and develop a pipeline.
Yeah.
The people that are going to send you work. By the way, as a footnote, it doesn't help when you look like I'm going to be 52 years old this year and I look like I'm 35, although it's starting to really come for you at ketchup, but
Much, yeah.
But you got to understand, back then, I looked like I was just fresh out of college.
Oh, no kidding.
So, and when you want to hire an attorney, what do you think?
Yeah, right.
Gray hair
Yeah.
is
I would have very seasoned experience. Yeah.
So thank God I did what I did, because by the time I became partner, I didn't have to flip the switch. Well, I had built my profile, I built my reputation, I had my relationships, I was on a bunch of boards.
Yeah.
And so I was able to kind of hit the ground running. And I remember looking at this, I think I was number 11 out of 100 something partners in terms of bringing in business.
Okay.
For my age and seniority,
Yeah.
like that was a big deal. We were like 100 and something, so I was in the top level of partners in terms of bringing in business. But I got disenamored at some of that turtle. I'm going to describe it to my own firm, but I think it happens all over. But just firm politics. And every year you reset, you always have to be minding your customers and how things are the dynamic between partners. That I got the itch to go into the corporate world.
Okay.
And do something different.
It's interesting. So back when you're practicing law, a couple of years before you made partner, you on your own go out and start to serve in the community. So, and you also mentioned that you at one point were hiring, folks or entering some of those people. So what might you say, that experience is any you would share with individuals coming out of school, maybe going into law, but maybe going into anything? What did you learn during that time that might be meaningful for some of those folks?
I think anybody who's saying otherwise might be being intellectually dishonest. I was looking for me, and we all have our biases, right? And sure. I was not a top 10 student. No offense to those who've been top 10. Yeah, I know, obviously, went to law school. I knew many of them. Some are very, very smart, but, and I know I'm generalizing, and maybe this is not a PC thing to say, but the top 10% doesn't necessarily mean that they're very social.
Right.
Right. Relatable. and be able to talk to people. They're brainiacs, and you can put them in a room, but never put them in front of a client, right? And so there's a sweet spot, sort of that top 30% that, in my opinion, were more well-rounded.
Yeah.
I think bottom 50%, you're likely not getting an interview, you're not getting a conversation, because there's more than enough to pick from our top. But I didn't need, unlike some other partners that I worked with in the past, they were looking exclusively at the top 10, because it's almost like a chest pounding exercise. We were able to grab this person in the top 10%.
Yeah.
And some pan out, some don't. Right. I've seen many, many times when it didn't pan out, because those are the days when law firms would hire classes of double digits of attorneys in a new year class. Then things change, and all of a sudden the law school class sizes shrunk, and therefore recruiting classes shrunk, and so you need to hire less, but then they need to be more well-rounded. And so first, if you're getting an interview, somebody has screened it. It could have been me, it could have been people on my team, but somebody was screening your academics and your involvement, and then you're on the numbers, give you a shot. Now I'm testing your personality. If you're sitting across from me, I'm looking at your personality, and all I'm thinking to myself is, if I'm enjoying this, I can see them talking to potential clients or the course, and then developing their analytics, right? And that's a skill set that, like, I can't teach you a personality. To either have it or you don't.
Yep.
I could teach you the law.
Yep. You can learn the law.
And so I guess I go off the position that a top 30% knows enough, and I can definitely mold and shape the law. But if they're personable enough, like, I'll hire them over a top 10 non-personable attorney any day. So in some respects, I was kind of looking for that. And also, I studied abroad. We did talk about this, but while I was in law school, my wife and I went and studied and lived in Barcelona for 6 months. So I had to study abroad, travel all over Europe.
Yeah.
And so naturally, that gave me a whole different perspective about the world, and our role in it, and all these things. And so whenever I see somebody that has an international travel experience as well as studying abroad, like, obviously there's more affinity. We could talk about that. And I think that they just come at it with a whole new different perspective. I think it does change the way you think, and you think more globally, and you think more holistically versus just US centric. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking for if I was going to be honest. I mean, can I see myself wanting to grab a beer with this person, right? After work? Your clients are thinking the same thing. If people can't wait for the meeting to end, it's not good for business development. So I think those are my major focus areas.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that it's not good for business development. You think lawyers are lawyers, but they're actually having to develop their own book of business. For sure. So if they can't do some of those old things well, like look people in the eye, say hello, be on time, be personable, right? Do those things where you can talk to others, build a relationship, and then at some point be able to support them with their requirements. It's all business development, right? All right, so you're running through, you're a lawyer, you're doing well, you decide you want to get into the corporate world. What do you do? What do you go? What's next for you?
Well, first of all, you have to do it very quietly, because you have got your client license out there, right? And if something doesn't work out, then you kind of expose yourself, like you're looking, and so I had to do it very quietly. And probably because of that, my options were not as numerous as I subsequently became once the secret was out, right?
Yeah.
So I had to tread carefully, talk to a few businesses, and of course, everybody, when they first thought they were looking for the legal department. I'm like, no. I don't want legal department. I want to be on the corporate side. Yeah. But again, the assumption. And so one of the companies that I was on the board of, advisory board, but it was a paid advisory board. There were about 6 or 7 of us, was Indianapolis Power and Light. Mm. So I served on the board of the advisory board of Indianapolis Power and Light for like 5 years before becoming their CEO.
Gotcha.
But on that board were me, Jim Morris, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Great friend and mentor for me.
Yeah.
Sam Odell.
Wow.
Melina Kennedy. Joyce Rogers. And Dan Elsner.
A rock star boy.
Yeah. And so interestingly enough, I did not inform them that I was planning on leaving the firm. I'm on their advisory board, and to Kelly Lunnington, who was my predecessor over there. And I had a friend of mine who owned a printing business who was in my ear. You need to come work for me. I'll create a position for you. It'll be great, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, I don't know what I was thinking, but I rationalized it to myself that it was a soft landing, very minimal risk. You know, I adored my friend. I still do to this day. His name's Richard Miller, Fine Line Printing Group. And he was kind enough to create a position. And the next thing you know, I jumped off a cliff, and there's no turning back. At this point, you farm out all your clients to your fellow partners. You make the announcement. And I became a VP of Business Development and Legal Affairs for Fine Line Printing Group.
Okay.
Right down Zionsville Road.
Yeah, seriously.
And I was there a year to the day, because 5 months into the job, 5 months, I get a call from IPL saying, we're looking for a CEO. We want you to consider putting your name in that. And I said, what? You know, say that again?
Yeah, really.
So it led to several conversations. And then I was immediately conflicted because I had just committed to Richard, right, you know, to be with him. But I mustered enough guts to have a conversation with him and say, hey, this is happening.
Yep.
And he looked at me and quintessential Richard Miller way, which I would expect nothing less, as a dear friend that he is, also a great mentor to me. He says, Rafael, you'd be an idiot not to try to take this job.
Right.
And I said, okay, and you're okay with that? And whatever, you could try. There was no guarantees. They weren't offering me,
Yeah, sure.
the lyric.
But you had a chance.
They were telling me, you should put your name in the hat. So I did, and probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I went through 5 rounds of interviews. They even flew in some Canadian investors. There's a Canadian pension fund that was part of IPL, at least back in the day. And they came in, and, you know, these were not like, what your strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
This is like, my method of preparation was reading front to back their last 10K filing.
Yep.
You know, looking at their finances or their capital structure and reading all that in their production facility. You know, like I sure know it was pretty elaborate.
You're being prepared as much as you can.
I was, and even to that day, like I tell people, like I don't have an MBA in education, but perhaps maybe in experience now. You know, I've had, but it was like I got thrown in the deep end of the pool without a life jacket and with a fire hose blasting, you know, because after 5 months and 5 rounds of interviews, I think the whole process lasted 8 months.
Wow.
I mean, it took forever. I swear to you, Jason, I thought I didn't get it.
No kidding.
Because there would be a period of time with 3-4 weeks where it would be crickets.
Radio silence.
And then I'd reach back out, say, hey, just FYI, like, hey, put me out of my misery if it's not me, like, sure. And then next thing you know, they offer me the position. So you fast forward, I go in first. The way that we structured it was I went in first as senior vice president of strategy, I think, or something like that. And 2 months later, I became the president CEO.
Okay.
You know, it's like, I don't know why we did it that way, but that's how it was. And
wow.
Next thing you know, president CEO IPL.
So you're running IPL, first time being a CEO, right? Like I said, drink it through a fire hose.
I was 39 years old.
So 39 years old, running that. You mentioned some mentors. What was that experience like, getting in, jumping in for the first time, you know, running the business, being the CEO? Were there folks you were reaching out to? How are you doing that and coping and helping, you know, kind of yourself understand what to do? Well,
a couple things. First, I remember wanting to go to the bathroom and puke. You know, I didn't do it, but I easily could have if I wanted to. Sorry. But what you find is in those industries which are heavily male driven, a lot of older, you know, gray haired guys in the room. And when I walk in and sit at the head of the table, I know and I can see their look like, well, what are you doing here? Who are you? Like they could be my dad, and they obviously know a lot more about the utility business than I do. Some people have been there for a long time. So it was, I'm not going to say that it was pleasant. It wasn't pleasant. There were moments of pleasantness.
Yeah.
But the stress of learning, of not making a mistake, of not really, and don't get me wrong, Jason, if I could go back and have a do-over, there are definitely things I would have handled and done differently. There's no question about that. And Rafael today, you look back and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, But back in the day, you didn't want to ask too much because you don't want to reveal that you didn't know, right? I didn't grow up in the industry, and being on the advisory board did not qualify me to be president and CEO, right? So I wasn't a utility attorney or an energy lawyer. So I had a lot of on-job learning, and what happened, I would fake it till you make it sometimes in the meetings. Like maybe I didn't understand something down, I'd write it down, and then later after the meeting's over, I would have my assistant reach out to the person who said that and added to come into my office, and then I said, hey, explain that to me a little bit better. Like what, and I outside of the presence of, the whole masses, I would try to get my questions answered that way. But just as you're trying to memorize and learn and grasp these concepts, then another meeting happens and they throw you with the whole flurry of other things, and that you turn your attention to that, and then you already forgot about that. And like it was just, there's no time. I had a fatality the first week of the job.
You're kidding me.
No. I had, one of our workers, unfortunately lost their lives because they got stuck in a lay down area. Those tons that a semi has to pick up the lift. Believe it or not, back in the day, there was no beeping sound on semis. If you have a forklift, right in reverse, it goes to the LD, but the big semi trailers, they don't have that.
No kidding.
So the guy said, lay down here. He's got, earbuds on.
Yep.
The truck is backing up, blind spot, doesn't see the guy, and literally pitches in between the
first week.
Wow. So, again, having not their media training, nature, started working on big projects with the mayor, the LED streetlights. There was a moratorium on lights. We lifted that. We started putting new streetlights in out of these. I should say the mayor and I practiced law together for 14 years. He was at the same law firm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were always cordial and good friends. But it was a very stressful moment. Also, the relationship between Indianapolis Power and Light back then and the parent company AES Indiana. It was what they call a matrix organization, right? So, which was new to me. Like we don't have matrices in law firms, So the dynamic of like, okay, well, this person is critical for the work that you do and that you have to answer for in the eyes of the public, but they don't report through you. Right? So, the entire generation line and the distribution system, biggest thing that power companies do, it's all being handled and reported up to parent company AES Indiana, right? So you're on their you're on the regulatory side, customer service side, but the actual generation and then transmission and distribution that is being, now, can I meet with the leaders? Yes, I can, but it's influence, not authority.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. And I'm young, I'm inexperienced. You throw off a lot at me.
Yeah, right.
Like it was very difficult, but I love the people I feel like they were solid people. I personally was one of the ones that was sad to see the name of IPL go. I knew they rebranded as AES Indiana.
Sure.
But I thought there was a lot of pride in that, a lot of history.
Yeah.
But no question, like I learned so much in the 2.5 years that I was there. That I can't even. I don't even. I could write a book about it, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. Wow, no. But it was like a crash course. For being a CEO, and all the things that go along with it.
That's amazing. So 3 years, a couple of roles, right? So 5 months with your friend over at Fine Line, 1 year, and 1 year, right? And then a couple of years over here. And then is that then when you get to where you are now?
Yeah, Old National. So what happened was, and we definitely talked about this. So AES, the parent company, does a massive global corporate restructure.
Okay.
So an activist investor joined their board and wanted to see some efficiencies. And as a result, 1,000 people globally, their roles were impacted, and I was one of them.
Okay.
Not only I was one of them, but the CEO of my sister utility. So there's only 2 utilities in the portfolio, Dayton Power and Light and Indianapolis Power and Light.
Okay.
And the Dayton Power and Light CEO also got removed.
Okay.
So they were combining the 2 utilities, the leadership, into one person, and there was a lot more changes. I don't even remember the vault. But anyway, so I get a package, and I'm now evaluating my opportunities, and I'm taking my time to decide what is it that I want to do.
And in this time, right, because coming from the law firm looking to get out into the corporate world, the first time around, you kind of had to be a little quiet. You had to be a little reserved. You had a lot of clients you had to worry about. In this situation, it's completely different, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is,
You put on billboard updates.
I'm available, I'm available, right?
Well, it was publicly reported. Like, it was it was all over the IBJ. By then, when I was CEO of IPL, I was on 11 boards at the same time. I was speaking at every other event in town. I was always hopping from event to event. It's a highly visible role, of course. Yeah. So it was widely reported, which came a little bit as a shock to me, because it's like, that's the bad thing about public life, right? Or, public life, not in the elected public life, but meaning when you're in highly visible roles, nothing gets past the media, right? So, just as my hire was celebrated and reported, so was the removal. And, of course, I'm worried about my reputation and my profile, how people would interpret this. And of course, it had nothing to do with performance. We had record earnings. And my time that was there, we accomplished a lot of things, but just, it wasn't how the parent company was going to move forward and with the restructure. So all the people on my team -1 also got let go. So it was not just me, right? So it's 100 people in the electric building just on my even circle.
wow.
Were impacted by it, and that was nearly half the staff there. And so it was a very traumatic experience and time for me. Sure, it was, because I started to doubt myself, and now I can talk about it and like, no, actually, I learned a lot from that. But it happens so frequently. So you just pick up the reader and you just kind of move on. But I love where I landed, and what happened was I was being courted by different companies and law firms, want to be back, and I came this close to accepting a job offer to be a partner under another law firm.
No kidding. Okay.
When Bob Jones, the former CEO of Old National, makes a play and meets with me and Jip Sangren over at Old National Bank. He was the president and CEO at the time, number 2. So number 1, number 2, take me to dinner at Provision on Ironworks. We had a great conversation. And I'll never forget, Bob Jones says, "Hey, Rafael," so we're talking about, IPO and all that. He says, "Hey, Rafael, what do you know about private banking?" And I said, I don't know anything about private banking. And he goes, Perfect.
No kidding.
And he says, it's an area that we really want to do something different. We want a separate line of business. We need somebody to come in and just pull it together and do something with it. And I think you're the perfect person for it.
No kidding.
So one thing led to another. We had conversations. The very next day, I had breakfast with Jim Sangren, right here at another Broken Egg in Fishers.
Yep.
And he comes with a job offer.
No kidding.
Not even 24 hours later.
Just like that.
And so after like a quick round of negotiation, next thing you know, I joined Old National as president of the private bank, or private banking corporate wire.
Yep.
And immediately have, 50 people, in my organization, and like making changes and appointing people to this position. And it was very, I remember like it's an established bank, but it was very entrepreneurial, because it was, in many respects, I was creating something that did not exist before.
Yep.
Right. And so And all the while that I mentioned I didn't know anything about private banking.
Right.
You sure? So I didn't know anything about printing, and I didn't know anything about electricity, right? You know, and certainly being a CEO. And so I immediately went to work, and I'll never forget the growth that we had. When I joined Old National Bank, we were in the middle of a similar sort of like restructure and reorganization.
Okay.
And I joined in November of 2018. And in January of 2019, I had to let 7 people on my team go. Because that was my number.
Yeah.
That was my responsibility to do. So I had to, unfortunately, look at production, make judgment calls, and literally fly to the different markets, have a sit down with them at a Starbucks or something like that, let them know, go back, do it all over again, do it by myself. And that was hard.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I got to know them enough for to like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right person? And share, but I'm blown by numbers. But despite the loss of the 7 people, we didn't hire anybody, obviously, because we were downsizing. Our production, 2019, 2020, 2021, all the way up to 2022 was just like
no kidding.
Yeah, like it was incredible. And I'm very proud of the team, loved my job, loved the people that I was working with. And I did that for 4 years.
Okay.
And then where I am today, so 3 and some change years ago, I got promoted and I became Chief Impact Officer.
Okay.
Ironically, the genesis of that was my CEO has a internal leadership cohort called CEO Council. It's kind of like a prestigious thing that you get appointed to if you're successful enough to be appointed, of up-and-comers, mostly minority and female associates who are kind of like leaders of tomorrow.
Yes.
And so they have this cohort, and you go through a sort of a monthly program, and you interact with the executive leadership team, and there's a project and so forth. And so the initial cohort, the inaugural cohort of the CEO Council now almost 4 years ago, was tasked, their project was to the OCC, the Office of the Control of the Currency for Banks. It's a primary regulator for Old National Bank. And in passing, had asked Jim Ryan, our CEO, hey, if there's anything you can do to help NDIs, please let us know. And for your listeners, MDI is Minority Depository Institution during banking.
Yeah.
So the CEO Council came with a recommendation that Old National should help start an MDI in Indiana.
Oh, okay.
They named it, and we think the name should be Generations Community Bank.
Get it?
And there was a 15-page, like, high-level business plan.
Yeah.
Like, super high-level. Jim Ryan taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, Rafael, I got a project for you. I think you can pull this off. And I said, what is it? So read it. So I pull it up. I'm like, I didn't know anything about an NDI. Just like I didn't know one. Like, it's a cycle, right? So being the lawyer that I was, and obviously seeing the impact that it could have, I'm like, okay, sure, I'm all in. So I became a member of the executive leadership team for Old National in doing so. I report directly to the CEO. I report to Jim Ryan, and I'm my Chief Impact Officer, and I'm looking into this MDI.
Yeah.
And I take 3 months to read all the materials that the CEO Council did, read all the regs about it, whatever. Started hiring lawyers or hiring consultants, putting a team of external partners together, and then quickly realized that in order for me to even go down this path, I have to hire a CEO for the bank, which I did. So I brought Al London in from Chase 2.5 years ago now. And long story short, we've received all regulatory approvals.
Yeah.
We got them last year, July. We did a capital raise. I've never done a capital raise before. I was supposed to raise no less than $24 million. I had to go between 24 and 28 was the target. 2 days before the capital raise expires, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. Like, I'm calling on people that told me that they were going to, they're committed, that they're sign the subscription agreement. This isn't charitable donation. These are investments.
Yeah, deals are your money, right? Yep.
So I had doubts. And then the last 48 hours, it started rating subscription agreements, and we ended up with 29,045,570.
Awesome.
So completely knocked it out of the park, well exceeding the range of 24 to 28 million. And that's how I ended the year last year. I could go to bed. That's awesome. I thought all my work could be for nothing, because if I don't hit that number, then regulators won't give us the final approval. It's over.
Right. Yeah.
So, and just a continued list of first, Generations Community Bank is set to open in stores sometime in the first quarter of 2026. So I've been the lead organizer for that bank for the 3 years. I put together the team and put together the business plan and did the capital raise. And now soon the team that I've hired, and now if it's helped that hired this team and built it out, they're going to transition over to Generations Community Bank. I'll say it Old National.
Yeah.
I also serve as market president here for Central Indiana, right, for Indianapolis. I'll continue in that role.
Yeah.
But I'll be on the board of this other bank, which Old National is a minority investor in.
Yeah.
But, it's just been a fantastic experience. But again, something that the last bank to start in Indiana was over 20 yeyears ago.
No kidding.
Yeah. And in Indianapolis, it was over 30 years ago, and it's called National Bank of Indianapolis.
Wow.
And so we'll now have the new title of the most recent bank, but it's the amount of de novo bank activity has significantly gone down since the 2008 crisis.
Yeah.
So it's been a true blessing and a privilege to work on this thing. I'm excited for it. It's kind of like the microphone drop, right, of the career. I helped start that bank.
We're like, man, I raised $29 million.
I wish, part of me wishes that I was like 59 years old right now, so I can literally do that and walk away. I feel like it's too young at 52. Like, guys, look, I got kids in college still, so, but what a great legacy, and for our community. And I'm just thankful that also my boss, Jim Ryan, gave me the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to do it. But it's been the trivial lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, if you don't know what you're doing, just jump in, right? Give it your all, do your best.
We put CEOs and people on pedestals, I think, too much. Like, before becoming a CEO myself, I always thought that, man, if you're a CEO, you must be really smart and you must be really successful. I'm like, I can never be. And I think, please don't take it the wrong way. I'm not calling CEOs dumb.
Course.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that they're just people like you and I. Some people catch a break, and some people are put in their positions because they were good friends with the prior one. And some people are put in their position because they're the son or the daughter. And some people are put in their position because they worked hard and they answer the chilling. And sometimes you hire people from the outside thinking that they're a solution because the inside one's too well, and you don't right, they're out to cut it. And then we make a bad decision, and we think, oh, well, they're just saying this, well, we had inside, but it takes pain and suffering to come to those realizations. So to me, it's really, it's very dynamic. Sure. We tend to like sensationalize, oh my God, you're the CEO, like, too much. I won't name names, but there are many companies out there that I met the number 2 and I met the number 3. And I walked away from the meeting thinking that should be there, right? Yeah, right. I mean, that should be there, but I'm sure people have different opinions, of course. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, there's a certain amount of humility that you get when you're in those roles, because you realize it's not about you, even though sometimes people think it is. Yeah, it's about everybody but you, right? About everybody else, and it is lonely at the top because it's really hard to like ask people for advice and for questions because you're the one that's supposed to have all the answers. Yeah. So surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you or know a lot about something that you don't. Yeah. Is really how, in my opinion, to be successful. Agreed. And it's like, and I think that it's the characteristics of, connecting with people, charisma, empathy. Yeah. Like inspirational. Those are the attributes to me that like will make you even much more effective. Agreed. Because it's just about hiring the right people.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yep. So obviously, following your career, technology has changed over time. How is tech? You guys just launched a brand new bank. Is there any new technology you guys are leveraging, or what's that look like in your industry going forward?
It's a really good question, and one that the entire banking industry is grappling with, because we're dealing with very sensitive customer information. And so we got some really strict regulatory requirements on protecting data, protecting information for customers. And so the risks are far too great for us to like dabble into something with AI and then not do it in a very disciplined and cautious way. But no doubt we're crawling before we walk, and then we're walking before we run. But we have like embedded, like, for example, small things like Copilot like into our email systems. And we have right now our executive leadership team, and specifically Jim Ryan is encouraging, and there's sort of like all these different case studies about different executives using Copilot for different things, like analyzing, like you can drag and drop like client information, but it's all internal.
Yeah, can't. Of course, yeah.
What do they call that? It's not open to the outside world, but and you can't pull up outside necessary resources because it creates a risk. So it's captive.
Yep.
To our sources and our documents. But there are all kinds of case studies that we're experimenting with that. But I think in an area where it could be very, very useful is in the areas of like financial planning, where if a customer gives you their consent, and you can connect and link various accounts, and then you have some analysis going into like giving you, where they're spending their money, what their needs are, where they should be focusing in, which by the way, if a banker can do it, a customer can do it.
Of course.
All right. Yeah, anybody can do it. Right. And sure. So there's a lot of things like, I hate saying this on this podcast, but trips I take with my family, you can you could tell ChatGPT to prepare a detailed itinerary, 4 or 5 days at such and such place. And the amount of information and things that they recommend is absolutely incredible. So like, you ask yourself, well, like, am I ever going to use a travel agent? Yeah, right. Yeah. Do I need one?
Yep.
But so there's going to be all kinds of case studies about how AI can help us better serve our customers and better tell us, and maybe even like, if we can use outside sources, which you can use, any banker can use outside sources as long as they're not using internal information, right? And embedding it, but to look up, what this such and such person is doing with their finances, and if they have any loans pending or whatever, and it pulls from like all these public records, and all of a sudden tells you, our prediction is that John Doe is going to have a loan mature in such and such day and will have a need to expand his business.
Yep.
I mean, now you can go and reach out and do some very targeted outreach for that, and somewhere we can add value because you're leveraging all of these platforms. But how can we better serve our customers is always going to be the top of mind, but we'll have to do it in a very cautious way because of all the regulatory constraints.
Of course. It's amazing where technology is going and the things you'll be able to do in the future. Let's pivot. Let's talk community, maybe giving back. So talk to me a little bit about Indianapolis and kind of how you plugged into the community, maybe some nonprofits you're with.
Yeah. So like I said, when we started, I immediately joined. I believe, and as corny as it sounds or cliche, I think it's everyone's responsibility to give back.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yep.
Now, that's a core value for me, and some people say you have to be open to other people's, way of thinking and perspectives, but I just simply can't understand how somebody could think otherwise, right? And like on that front, the sky's blue, right? It's not green, it's blue. So I think as a citizen and as a resident of this city, if you care about it at all and you want to be an integral part of it, then I think that even if you volunteer somewhere, even if it's at church, like that counts, do something. And don't just go to work and go.
Right. Yeah.
And so now I did that on steroids, and I don't recommend that for the faint of heart, but right now I'm probably on 7 or 8 boards. I'm a member of the State Ethics Commission. I was appointed by Governor Holcomb, so I'm one of 5 commissioners for the State Ethics Commission. Board chair for Community Hospital Network, which is very complex in and of itself. Children's Museum, at BDN Chamber, Latino Institute, Center for Justice and Exoneration Network. I mean, you name it. I've served as board chair of United Way of Central Indiana, which is, in my opinion, a very important organization to help people get back on track and be a productive member of society. I went back because I spoke on a panel recently about civic engagement, and I went back and looked at my resume, and if I counted correctly, and I believe I did, but if not, I'm really in the ballpark. It looks like I had served on 35 boards.
Holy cow.
35 boards and chaired 9 or 10 of them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so among them are, I was co-chair for the NBA All-Star Game when we hosted it in Indianapolis. I was secretary for the Super Bowl bid in 2018. Like, there's just been some really neat things. Co-chair for Plan 2020, the bicentennial plan for the city. Just really, really cool stuff. And the story that I've shared before about, well, how did you manage to do that, right? If I start with NBA All-Star, people, why did you do that? I want to do that. Well, this is how I did that. It wasn't like I picked up the phone and I said, hey, can I get involved with the NBA All-Star? And then boom, I'm the chair of it.
Yeah.
It was that years prior to that, when we were going to host the Super Bowl, I did pick up the phone after inquiring, like, who do I need to talk to? And they said, this guy named Mark Miles. Now, you know Mark.
Yeah.
So that guy, Mark, but I didn't know who Mark was.
Yeah.
So I had to Google Mark. And I cold called him at his office and I said, Mark, you don't know me, but my name's Rafael Sanchez. I'm an associate at the law firm. I'd love to get involved with the Super Bowl and just want to meet with you, blah, blah, blah. He made his assistant make an appointment to come to his office to talk about it. I'm thinking this guy's going to give me 15 minutes of his time.
Yep.
I show up. I leave like 2.5, 3 hours later.
No kidding.
Like, we hit it off. We were talking about everything. Next thing you know, I'm co-chairing the subcommittee and I'm on the speakers bureau talking about it. I'm doing this. I'm on like 3 things for the Super Bowl in 2012 when we hosted it, which then led to when we decided as a city, we're going to bid on it again. We want to host the Super Bowl one more time for 2018. They named me secretary for that bid. And I even went to Atlanta to the NFL owners meeting to pitch, to be a part of the team that pitched the Super Bowl. We didn't get it. Obviously, Minneapolis got it, but still it was a really neat experience. And then after that, Rick Fuson, who was the CEO of the Pacers at the time, pulled me aside in the meeting and said, hey, Rafael, let me ask you a question. Do you like basketball? So, of course, I like basketball. Yes, sir. Do you want to be co-chair of the NBA All-Star game? I'm like, I'd love to be co-chair of the NBA All-Star. Yeah. And I had no doubt in my mind, Jason, why I got asked is because I was already kind of top of mind, because over the years, of course, right, when you start and you raise your hand and you get involved and then you do well, you have to do well, you have to make a difference, and that collection of experiences, and then the profile keeps snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. And now it's just it's an easier call to men, right? Yeah, that guy, and so that's why I would encourage all the listeners that it's never too late, but the people would be shocked to see what board service does to not only your leadership skills, because you learn how to lead people that don't report to you.
Yeah.
They're volunteers and you're a volunteer too, so they don't have to listen to you.
That's right.
But you cut your teeth in leadership, but you accelerate, I believe, your professional development because of the networking that you engage in, and you're giving back.
Yep.
And so to me, there's no other way. Now I will tell you, because I don't want people to listen to this podcast and then all of a sudden call me to be on their board. I'm not necessarily looking like there comes a point in time in life and okay, I've kind of been there. I paid my dues. Like, I've been on boards, nonprofit boards that helped raise a lot of money over the years, fundraisers all the time. I co-led the United Way campaign for Central Indiana in 2016-17 with the other Rafael Sanchez. That was fun. And I don't mind doing that. I love this city.
Sure.
But it also has to be somebody else's turn.
Yeah.
Right. I can only tap my contacts so many times and ask them for money.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't rule out joining corporate boards where there might be complexity and challenges and intellectual challenges that will help me stimulate my brain. But just the pure fundraising, there's so many great organizations out there, but like I'm kind of looking to wind down versus wind up.
Yeah, sure.
All the boards, but I think it's an incredible exposure to leadership and to the city.
Oh, it's awesome. Rafael, I can tell you that the time has flown by. You talk to you all day long.
Yeah.
Great story, great background, wonderful transitions, awesome community focus, the things that you've done, 35 boards, unbelievable, 35 boards. So maybe just to kind of close us out, if you and your wife are going out and having some fun, what's fun look like for you guys? Vacation trips? What are you guys doing?
Well, we love to travel. And one thing, I can't remember the age of her kids, but, when they're my kids' age, which my oldest is going to be 24. And then I got a 20-year-old that just turned 20 yesterday, and 17-year-old.
Yep.
You have to kind of bribe their presence through vacation trips. And so, but we love doing it and love traveling internationally.
Okay.
So every year we try to do at least one trip somewhere, even if it's a short one, but we go internationally. And I think the best gift you can give your kids nowadays is experiences. And case in point, there's no more Toys R Us or anything of that nature, like football play with toy. The only toy that they play with is their phone.
It's got a glass. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think experiences is the way to go. But I enjoy, and this is going to sound, interesting, but I enjoy doing nothing. I enjoy looking at the calendar and saying, oh my God, we don't have anything going on Friday, and just finding one of the hundreds of things that we have on queue to watch on Netflix or, Paramount Plus or whatever, and just enjoy sitting back and just relaxing.
Yeah.
And I used to be in the circuit of going to a gala every evening and stuff like that. I'm not saying I don't go, because it's part of the job. Sometimes later you have to show up, but I don't go nowhere near the amount time that I did pre-COVID.
Sure.
And I think COVID had a lot to do with it. When COVID basically stopped the world for a minute, like you realize how much of your life you were giving up.
Yeah.
And so it made us all homebodies.
Yeah.
And now we're much more jealous of our time and how much time we let it go out. But before, we didn't know any better, because that was just life. We're running hard.
Yeah.
You're hopping. So doing nothing sounds wonderful. Traveling a close second. And then I do audiobooks on my way to from work or anytime I'm driving. That's how I pass my car.
I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving your time to us. Thanks for being on the Elevate podcast. Thank you for your story. Thanks for all you've done for the city.
Thank you.
Best wishes to you and your family.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for today.
Thank you.